breathless. She ran as fast as she could, dodging rocks and fallen debris, leaping across bottomless crevasses with little thought but for the other side. Her clawed feet tore at the ground, kicking up dust and loose pebbles, but careful not to lose her balance. Tripping could spell doom in any number of ways. She stole numerous glances over her shoulder, trying to spot her pursuer, to catch any hint of his presence. None came. The sky, if it could be called that, was as dull and featureless as it ever was, devoid of any life. The edge of the fallen stalactite loomed in front of her, a sudden drop to unknown perils below. Her options were few. Opting not to double back, she skidded up to the precipice, hurriedly searching the open air for a means of escape. Spotting a rickety bridge far beneath, she assessed the possibilities. Something flashed by out of the corner of her eye, forcing a decision: jump. She plummeted. She had panicked, had missed. She wasn't going to make it. Her trajectory took her far left of even the questionable safety of the bridge, leaving nothing but dull mist beneath her. She was going to die. The thought snapped any inhibitions she felt. Arching her back, her leathery wings snapped open, catching the air immediately. Her fall slowed, and she reoriented herself. Pumping her muscles, she gave her wings a mighty flap, curving into a spiral. Something impacted her from the side. Something fast. Something big. Vicious talons hooked around her arms, grabbing her from the air and hauling her upward to the top of the stalactite. Spinning, dizzy, she watched the mist shrink back as she was carried back from her doom, at least from that one. Rushing up over the edge, she was dropped, falling back to the solid stone with a painful thud. Even before her head cleared, the shadowy figure landed on her, pinning her limbs to the ground. When her vision returned, she found herself staring up into a gruesome, animalistic face, not a hint of triumph or disappointment showing in its slitted, dead eyes. Fangs bared, it leered down at her. She felt something in her mind. An outside presence, forcing its way in, pushing her thoughts aside to insert its own. No wings. I'm sorry, she began, but was cut off by a snarl from the creature above her. She shuddered. I'm sorry, master. Its face pulled away, the hooked claws at the ends of its bat-like wings releasing her arms. It crawled backward, off of her. But she didn't move. She knew what she was to do. Reaching down, she unclasped the armor plate from around her hips, revealing the organic tissue underneath. Tossing the protective garment aside, she dug her feet into the ground in a wide stance, offering herself to her master. Without so much as a sound, the bat-like creature dipped its head between her legs, its mouth touching the sensitive flesh. As she shuddered, it wrapped its lips around the area. Its twisted features began to glow, and she felt an all too familiar sensation. The sensation of all her energy being pulled down out of her, sapped from every part of her body to a focused point before being absorbed by the other being. She should have felt pleasure. She should have felt untold arousal from the energy flowing through her womb. But from experience she knew that it wouldn't be hers to have. Her master drank that in too. It didn't have to do this. It didn't have to give chase. It didn't have to pin her down. It could have simply drained her from a distance. But this was a much more satisfying, more intimately cruel experience. She couldn't move. Not out of fear, or anxiety, but because she simply couldn't. Her limbs didn't respond. She just didn't have the strength. She could feel the orgasm happen, but none of the sensation that came with it. She simply felt dead, the last of her power leaving her in an explosive climax. Her master pulled its head away, mouth damp. Though it was no longer leeching from her, she felt nothing. She had been left just enough to stay alive, and nothing more. Without another glance, the creature launched itself into the sky, soaring away across the jagged terrain, leaving her. She remained there, dripping. Unable to move. Barely able to think. A dull ache would be the first thing she felt. Eventually she would regain the strength to move. Then to stand. then to return to her master. But at that moment, all she could do was lay there. Used. Abused. Violated. And she loved it.